What's up, my beautiful black bat flowers, also known as Takashantarii? This is Rob from the Gay Guy Plays, and today on The Daily Grind, we're going to be addressing a subject that I've been trying to avoid for quite some time. But I did promise you guys that at some point we'll be talking about the Deadlock Protocol. Now, one of the big reasons that I've been dodging this subject for a bit was mainly because of the fact that I've been doing a lot of introspection about the kind of content that I want to cover on the channel, and I feel like it's time for a bit of a paradigm shift. If we take a look at the grand scheme of Warframe, I really want to focus my content on something that's not going to be forgotten about in 6 months or will actually incite some decent change in the current system because, and I hate to admit this, when I look at the Deadlock Protocol, I just see a lot of forgettable things. Aside from maybe the lore and the gameplay wrinkle, like, in 6 months, are we really going to be talking about the Staltha? Literally, I had to look up the name because I couldn't even remember the weapon in and of itself. And to be honest with you, if we look at some of the, weapon reviews out there, a lot of them are just, side grades. And at the end of the day, it's not going to do anything to, change the game or push the game forward when it comes to mechanics or progression. It's just forgettable, and that's kind of like my overall banner for the Deadlock Protocol. Now, if there's certain things that you absolutely loved and you think that this is the best ever, you're fully entitled to your opinion, but from my perspective, especially going back as far as I have in Warframe, there are certain things that really resonated strongly within me, and this is just not one of them. However, let's go ahead and go through bullet point by bullet point of each of the releases. I'll give you guys an idea of how I feel about them, and also maybe introduce you into my new way of thinking when it comes to the content that we'll be covering. So let's kick things off with Protea. First and foremost, I have to say that I find her really fun in kind of like a spammy way. If you're like one of those players that really like to drop down a lot of abilities at once, she is definitely fun for that. I also think that she has good team support and some moderate CC. There are very few Warframes that play around with energy manipulation in the ways of dropping down energy orbs. Same thing goes for health orbs. So this can actually contribute to some synergies. If you guys go as far back as Greedy Mag with Mesa, I'm just putting that, listen, I'm not promoting that type of gameplay, but you could work some things out, you know, with Miss Protea dropping down her dispensary. The only thing that I'm not super duper fond about her is while she does have some defensive capabilities, she is still a bit squishy. Now, of course, not every frame needs to be a super crazy tank. I'm looking at you, Mesa, you know? But it is one of those things where it's kind of like I noticed that she does really well when she's in a group of people, kind of taking away some of the fire from her, but when she does have to solo things, it can get a little bit rough. Yes, I've tried Equilibrium. Yes, I've tried Health Conversion. I've been playing around with a lot of different builds. But for me, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, the only thing to me that is game-changing about Protea is the creativity of her passive. That is the one thing that has really kept me playing her because I love the micromanagement of the kind of 4-beat rhythm to it. I'm like, ooh, so if I have this many notches on there, I could go ahead and use her ultimate, then drop down a supercharged shield, or I could drop down a supercharged dispensary. So I like kind of being able to plan ahead with the way that I'm going to play her, and I feel like that's one of the things that really stands out to me in her gameplay. So hopefully in the future we see more Warframes with unique and interesting passives, and we've also been seeing a lot of augments for passives, so who knows, that could be a whole new door that we'll walk through with frames such as Protea. Now, when we go ahead and take a look at the weapons that came along with her, we have Velox. It's a full auto pistol, which is Mastery Rank 8 weapon, and if I'm going to be completely honest with you, it feels a little bit better than a Mastery Rank 8 weapon, but not that much better. That's really all it is. It's a full auto. It's a little bit more effective in her hands when she uses it when I talk about ammo consumption. And then we have the Staltha and Stropha. These are Mastery Rank 10 weapons, and they definitely feel like Mastery Rank 10 weapons. The only thing very unique about the Staltha is the fact that you can actually charge up one of its projectiles. It consumes a little bit more ammo. It will hit a target and it will explode in an area effect, dealing radial damage, which also has radiation. We've seen effects like these a bunch of different times. I will say that the weapon itself looks really pretty, and the effect of the area explosion is also very, very beautiful. The sound design is great, but at the end of the day, is it something that I'm going to be reaching for? The answer is no. Next up, we have the Stropha, and I have to say, this is one of those weapons that I have a very strong disconnect with because it looks so cool and I want it to be so good, and it's just okay. I've been playing around with it a lot, and I feel like it plays better as a blade with a gun attachment than like a full-on combo blended gun blade. There's maybe one combo that I like off of it when it comes to High Noon, and I believe it's like one of the block combos that really focus on the slashy bits of it. But beyond that, it's not something that I would reach for at the end of the day. You know, I'm not saying that everything's got to be super hyper ultra meta, but I am saying that there are Mastery Rank 10 weapons that I still reach for these days, and this is not going to be one of them. The only other notes that I have for these is none of these weapons are really game-changing. I feel like they're all just mediocre side grades for other mediocre weapons, and we have a whole slew of mediocre weapons. In fact, one of the videos I want to cover very, very soon, I'm going to be working towards it, so if you see somebody else take this idea, I'm going to be really mad. But I actually want to go through every single weapon that is currently in our arsenal and take a look at what the mastery rank is for all of them. Because I can tell you right now, if we take a look at a chart of how many types of mastery rank level weapons, we'll see a cluster of them, and then everything will kind of drop off into oblivion, especially when a lot of us are actually reaching into the late 20s when it comes to mastery rank. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the Corpus Ship Remaster. As many of you guys have heard me say it before, I'm not the type of player that really cares about environmental stuff. I'm very much like, let me know what I need to kill and what you're gonna give me for killing it, right? I do have to say that I think that they're absolutely gorgeous, but at the end of the day, it's just a map for me to learn how to traverse to get to the next enemy that I need to kill. And I've heard some criticisms where people were saying along the lines of, well, you know, it's the environmental team and, you know, they don't focus on developing, you know, like mechanics or anything like that. They're really focused on making things beautiful. And my response to that is, well, they could work on a new environment to make beautiful so that DE could develop a new environment. And I'm not saying that they're not doing that, right? But yo, I want to see progression into Tau. I want to see Plains of Duviri. I don't want to see them go back and renovate Corpus ships. I mean, it's nice, don't get me wrong. It is very nice, and there is lore that's attached to it, but maybe that's just me wanting to focus on the game moving forward instead of the game moving backwards. Does that make sense? Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the things that I did like, because I do need to put this out there, because there are some things that I enjoyed quite thoroughly. First of all, being the Protea quest. The Protea quest I liked a whole lot. It introduced a new character, Parvis Granum, and can I just tell you, all of the Corpus, like, NPCs are just sassy as all hell. There was, like, a great interaction between Parvis and Nefanyo, where Nef is like, no, that must have been a different son. And I remember that so iconically in my head, and that's what I mean. Like, what are the things that we're going to remember from this update? I'm not going to remember the weapons, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not going to remember the environment, but I will remember that singular line of, no, that must have been another son. Like, that is one of those things that I feel stays with players, right? So we've got a great lore bit in there, and we also have some new mechanics that come with the gameplay wrinkle. And the gameplay wrinkle to me is, how do I put this? Is exactly how I feel DE operates all the time. They have this great idea, but they never fully expand or go deep enough to it for the dedicated player base, right? They'll just kind of skim the surface and say, all right, we'll give you this much. And basically, for those of you guys who don't know, you get these, you know, Granum coins or whatever. You go into this portal, and basically, it's like a game mode that's part-timed, like extermination and kill confirm. Like, you pick up these things, you kill certain things, and it puts more time on the clock so that you can kill more things. Well, the thing about it is they broke it down into, I believe there were 3 different ranks. And I'm not talking about the tiering, like the different coins. I'm talking about the 3 different reward tier ranks, A, B, and C. Is that how it's called? Rotations, I guess you would say. And rotation A is, I believe, 25 kills. Rotation B is 50 kills. And rotation C is 75 kills. Now, here's the thing. Now, the first level that we went ahead and did this at, I don't think anybody quite understood what was going on. So we got anywhere from between 50 to 70 something, right? The second time we did it, we were already busting into like the 90s and 100 pluses. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that can attest to the fact that they've gotten well into the 125s, 150s, easy peasy, right? And so it's this gameplay wrinkle where you get rewarded just for rotation A, B, and C, and that's it. And I was like, oh, you could have done so much more with this, where you turn it into a full-on timed attack and you could get like more and more rotations as you go up, and maybe the rotations expand exponentially. So instead of just going up by 50, it then goes up by 75, then the next rotation goes up by 100, then the next rotation goes up, you know, just to keep it so like the longer that you play, it's a little bit diminishing returns, but you could get really good stuff if you push for it. And that's the part of me that was like, typical DE, they're gonna cut it off at this point and they're never gonna push it further, even though plenty of us have the resources to go further. And that's where I feel like DE dropped the ball, and I wish that maybe that's something that they would go ahead and revisit in the future, maybe with another Granum coin, like a higher tier of it. But for me, I was like, yeah, DE does this a lot, and I'm kind of like, oh, it hurts my soul. All right. So the next thing from that, I actually wanted to go ahead and talk about the new kit guns and MOAs. The new MOA is actually fine. I actually think it's fun. It's got a unique mechanic to it where it can jump into areas and it can reset this really high amount of overshield, so it makes it a little bit tanky. I actually personally like it a little bit better than other MOA sets, but I think that you could pair it with certain other MOA sets to make a really cool defensive one, maybe like the jump in plus overshields, and then go ahead and give it like the stasis zone to kind of like, you know, keep it nice and safe within its own bubble. I think that that's really cool. But am I still gonna reach? Am I gonna reach to it more than I would Kavats? The answer is still no. So I'm, you know, crossing my fingers that DE starts working on Pets 2.0 and gets that pushed out to us, because again, Pets 2.0 is something that I'm probably gonna remember in 6 months' time. This new MOA, like, I'm probably not going to pick it up much after this at all. I'm just going to go ahead and grab Aspen and say, let's go, buddy. Now, when it comes to the kit guns, they actually recently got a buff, so I do need to go ahead and revisit them. But when I did go ahead and use them the first time around, I was actually a little bit underwhelmed at their performance. But like I said, it's definitely something that I'm going to have to dig into a little bit more. However, realistically, it's very, very similar, you know, what is it called? Barrels, you know, and all of that kind of stuff. It's really the only thing that they added in was a new handle, a couple different tweaks to the mechanics, like instead of the gaze bouncing from enemy to enemy, it creates like a cloud of damage, kind of like the, it starts with a G, Glaxion Vandal. Like that one, it's very similar to that. So, I don't know, a part of me is like kind of unimpressed by them, but I'm going to do it just to do it and see how it all plays out. And also, mainly because of the fact that they've reset the level of the ribbon. So for the primary kit guns, they're kind of doing this thing where they introduce new weapons. They're going to set the ribbon disposition really, really low for that weapon. So the ribbons that I have that are great for my secondary kit guns, they're not so great on my primary ones. Not that it's necessarily anything that I really gauge like a gun's effectiveness on, but you know, you have those attachments, and I'm like, well, that kind of ended up making me go, not as great as I thought it was gonna be. But as you could probably tell by my tone when it comes to this update, again, it's just kind of like short-term items. There's nothing that really kind of like shakes me to my core, except for maybe the lore and my disappointment in the gameplay wrinkle, but they could still salvage it. They could still turn it around and make it something that would be memorable at least 6 months down the line. But everything else, I want you to go ahead and ask yourself, is this something that you're going to be like, oh my god, that was amazing in 6 months? Or is it going to be something that you're going to absolutely forget about? Like, again, I completely forgot about the names of the weapons as I was doing this video, I was like, what was the weapons names again? And I was like, I'm just gonna call them weapons because literally I can't be bothered to remember these ones. So let me know down in the comments below how you feel about this, how you feel about maybe doing a little bit of a paradigm shift and talking more about the issues of Warframe, how Warframe can improve, maybe some long-term things, instead of focusing on like weapon reviews for things that are just mediocre. Don't get me wrong. If there's an amazing weapon out there that I fall in love with, I'm all over it. I'm gonna let you know if it's good. If there's a new primed weapon that is like touching my nostalgia bone and just like rubbing it the right way, I'm all about that because, you know, I like me a little bit of nostalgia. We'll cover things like that, but just for some of the general things, if I'm gonna be honest with you, I have a 5 a.m. shift tomorrow morning. I had a 5 a.m. shift this morning and the last day, and Rob's tired, and he's too tired to do like mediocre weapon reviews. Regardless, toss all of your feelings down in the comments below, and as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and Black Lives Matter. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!